This week on Dance of Joy, we talk about Shakespeare, Elvis Presley, and Mama's Family. All that and more as we watch Season 7, Episode 19 of our favorite 80s hit sitcom, Perfect Strangers. Hello and welcome to Dance of Joy, a Perfect Strangers rewatch podcast. My name is Sophia. I am one of your hosts, and joining me as always is your other host, who happens to be my brother. What's up, Imran?
Yes. Hello, cousin listener. Hi, sister.
Hello, brother.
How's it going? You know, this week's Perfect Strangers episode reminded me of my theater career in high school.
Theater career.
College,
I remember your
doing
theater
some
career.
plays. And you know, I love the old saying, all the world's a stage, but it's really much ado about nothing. And alas, poor Yorick. I knew him well. I never did any Shakespeare. These are all just Shakespeare lines I'm spitting out.
We did a play called Much Ado About Stuffing.
Oh, did you really?
No.
Was it a take? It was a parody on Much Ado.
It was a Weird Al sound.
Did you ever read? I read Shakespeare and I enjoyed it.
I read Shakespeare.
It's very good. He's very clever.
You know, I've often thought that I would love to. There should be for adults, like outside of a degree program, just like a Shakespeare reading club or a Shakespeare work lecture series or whatever, where you can just go and still keep learning about Shakespeare and read the play with other people, read things with other people. And I don't know, maybe that exists.
I mean,
I just want to take a Shakespeare class.
I know. Just his turn of phrase, the way he uses words. A lot of these jokes are originally like Shakespeare setups, right?
Yeah.
And Shakespeare has nothing to do with this week's episode of Perfect Strangers. Sort of, not really.
Well, kind of. It has something to do with the title. This is Season 7, Episode 19, entitled The Play's the Thing, which in fact...
The Play's the Thing. Isn't that another saying? The Play's the Thing. Where's that from?
Shakespeare line.
Yes, Hamlet.
From Hamlet.
From Hamlet.
I'll have grounds more relative than this. The play's the thing wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king.
Oh, Shakespeare. It's poetry. He's so good. He's so good. But, there's play, there's Shakespeare. What is this episode about? TV Guide would have told you Larry's play is staged and cast. And thanks to Larry's feud with the director, the cousins and the gals have starring roles.
Larry wrote a play? What?
And there's a feud. Happens very quickly. He has a lot of aspirations. Not only was he a photographer, investigative journalist, also a playwright, also fills in the bubbles to Dimitri's world.
Also, the gals are in this.
The gals have starring roles. Yes, who's in this cast? This will be fun.
We've got Bronson Pinchot and Marklin Baker as our beloved Balky and Larry, and then their significant others, Marianne and Jennifer, played by Rebecca Arthur and Melanie Wilson. We also have Lydia, played by Belita Marino. We love her. No Gorpley, but a couple of other guest casts that we'll get to in a bit.
And in Perfect Strangers timeline, we are at March 21st, 1992.
Nearing the end.
Late into Season 7, 1992. Of course, you can watch all seasons of Perfect Strangers on Amazon Prime Video. For a small fee, you can watch along and play along. Okay,
the play's the thing. Let's find out about Larry's play that he wrote. We open Act 1 of this episode, not the play. We're at their big house, and Larry's on the couch reading a newspaper. That's what young men did, I guess, in their big house.
That's how you got the news. Remember that?
Yeah, he's a
writer
guy,
also, so he's checking out people's work.
He's reading a newspaper, and Balky runs in.
With the plot.
With the plot, obviously. And he says, "Cousin, I've got some amazing news." And he goes, and he kind of like crouches down next to where Larry's sitting next to the couch. Larry's on the couch, and Balky says, "You'd better sit down." And Larry just goes, "I am sitting." And he goes, "Well, then stand up." And then they both stand up.
Yeah.
And there's a beat. They look at each other, and Balky says, "All right, now sit down." A funny little physical gag at the top.
Little up and down like you're at a bar mitzvah or something.
And so Larry sits back down, and Balky kneels on the floor again next to him, and he says, he goes, "Do you know how Miss Lydia is always wanting exciting new scripts for her theater group?" Okay,
a lot of information dumps happening here.
All this stuff that like apparently has been happening in the background that everybody knows about except us. So Lydia has a theater group, and she's always wanting new scripts.
So she must run like the community theater program.
We'll find out.
Okay, I guess this is a known thing.
And so Larry figures out what has happened before we hear it. And he gets very upset and he says, "Don't tell me you gave Lydia my play."
Okay, more new information.
What?
Larry has written a play. And perhaps it was given to Lydia. And this is funny. He goes, "Don't tell me you gave Lydia my play." And Bucky blankly looks at him and goes, "Okay, I won't tell you, but then I won't have any news."
And then Larry's like, then he goes into this, like, he gets up and very expressive, whiny voice.
It's very
Larry.
Woody
it's
Allen.
kind of cute.
Yes.
He goes, "I can't believe you gave her my script without my permission. My play, Wheat, is still a work in progress. Oh, I'll be humiliated. The theater group will hate it." And he's putting his hand on his forehead like a child. The theater group will hate it. I'll be a laughing stock.
So he is whining like he's Woody Allen or something, and it's so annoying. And also,
it's very cute, though.
This is the first time he says the word wheat.
But he has always pronounced the WH words with the H.
Because technically, that's how you would say it. If it was we, it would just be WEAT.
When. Wheat.
Where? Whale.
Not well.
Not well. Wheat. So yeah, he does this whining. He's very humiliated. And meanwhile, he's very upset. Balky unrolls a poster that says wheat on it. He goes, "Cousin, it opens on Friday. They've been rehearsing for weeks. Everyone loves it." And he flips right away and goes, "Well, of course they love it. It's a brilliant piece of writing."
Immediately stops whining and becomes very overconfident.
This poster is great too. It's the word wheat with stalks of wheat on it.
Balky tells him, well, he hasn't actually read the play, but he's like, "But you'll be happy to know the stage is brilliantly managed by me. Oh. I'm the stage manager."
Oh, he's a stage manager.
And he looks at the poster and he's like, "Oh, they forgot my name."
That sucks.
No name on the poster. But he says his duties include opening and closing the curtain. He says, "I've been practicing in the shower all week."
And he pantomimes opening and closing the shower.
Curtain.
That's kind of cute. He's practicing.
Yeah.
He's been practicing.
So then we cut to
transition with an exterior shot of what is it just says recreation center. The caption says the next night it's a recreation center.
The Chicago Recreation Center.
The Chicago
Recreation Center in Chicago.
It's well known, famous building.
The Recreation Center.
Los Angeles, no doubt. So it's the next night. And they cut to inside, and there's a whole stage with a set, and Balky is bringing Larry into the room. He's very excited. There's a bunch of cast members on the stage. There's a table.
The set on the stage is like a
country home, the kitchen,
and outside of the fake windows are just like lots of stalks of wheat everywhere, like an old-timey country home.
There's a bunch of people reading what seems to be the script of Wheat. Yeah. And Bucky's like, "Cousin, I'm so excited. Let me give you the complete tour of the theater." And he goes up on the stage and he goes, "This is the stage." And then he takes his hand and brings him down to this where the chairs are.
The audience.
In the audience. He goes, "And these are the chairs." And then he stops. He goes, "Well, and that's really about it."
It's like a auditorium.
Yes.
Like a school auditorium.
Yeah, with those old wooden bolted down rows of seating.
And the seats that
it does remind me of the Chicago grammar school I went to.
And he's like, "Yep, that's it. That's all I have to show you." And then Lydia comes through and she's like, "Oh, Larry, I love your play. I bet you were really excited when Balky told you we were doing it." And Larry's like, "Yeah, I should. Yep. And then he tells her the play is somewhat autobiographical. He says, "I based the character of Lawrence on, me." And then there's a beat. Lydia just looks at him and then she goes, "Well, despite that, opening night's already sold out."
Despite that.
What? We'd already sold out.
So weed sold out. It's opening in a few days on Friday. This is crazy. And he's just finding out about this.
Right. How did they select and rehearse this entire play?
Wouldn't they have to buy it from him
without him ever
Balky just
hearing about it?
Maybe he was like, "I told him." Why wouldn't Balky tell him?
Why wouldn't he tell him earlier?
Yes.
Yeah. So many questions. Like, how How did he not know that this whole team was producing his play till the week of? And then, I don't know. Why did Balky keep it from him? I don't know.
Well,
maybe Balky didn't know till just.
Balky was smart. He knows not to get Larry involved because we're going to see what happens. Anyways, Balky takes Larry to the side, and there's these two gentlemen on the stage now. It's apparently the director and the star. And Balky's like, Cousin, look. He goes, you see them two guys? The guy on the left, he's the director, Trevor McNeil, and the guy on the right is the star of the show, Brad Oliver. And he goes, you've seen him before? And Larry's like, I have. He goes, yes, last week at Little Tony's Pasta Place. He was our waiter.
Pasta Palace.
Pasta Palace. So the director is your typical director looking.
No, not typical for now. Typical for
the 80s, I guess. Theater director. He's got like a teal sweater wrapped around his shoulders and tied.
And then his hair is ridiculous.
His hair is poofy. He's got glasses with the strings to keep him on, so
but then he has like this tiny little ponytail, but only like on the mullety part of a
he's kind
haircut.
of tucked up his mullet into a ponytail, a little stubby ponytail.
Yeah, it's just weird. I guess that's how cool directors looked.
That's it's all. You know what it is? It's sweater on the shoulders tied. That means you're a director. Anyway, we get a peek of what they're talking about, and Trevor, the director, tells to the other guy. He goes, "Okay, in your scene, Brother Billy erupts in a fit of anger." And he goes, now, Brad, your character of Lawrence is basically a buffoon. He goes, so your underlying motivation is? And Brad goes, buffoonery? And the director's like, bravo, Brad. And Trevor's like, I'm depending on your guidance to help make this Lawrence character a complete bonehead. Larry is listening to all of this, of course.
Yeah.
And Trevor's like, oh, that's good. He goes, hey, and look, don't let the words get in the way. We can always change them later. And now Larry has had enough.
And Larry's off to the side, and he's like, wait. Whoa. No, he can't hold it. And he's like, no. You can't change the words. The words are sacred.
Of course, the writer always thinks the words are the most important thing.
The director, Trevor's like, who are you? He says, I'm Larry Appleton, the author of Wheat.
Wheat.
And wheat is perfect as it is. Every word is in its proper place. And then these two, the actor, Brad, and the director, Trevor, they just kind of like look at each other. And then Trevor's like, I know what's going on here. And he tells Larry, oh, this is your first play and you think you've written a masterpiece. Apparently he's seen this before. He goes, I'll tell you what, if you work real hard, maybe someday you'll have a career writing game show questions, huh? Oh. And that's meant to be a dig.
Meant to be a burn.
But every time I watch this, I was like, but you know what? That would be really cool to write.
Someone's going to write those questions.
I think that's kind of a really fun job.
But like at Jeopardy,
I don't think
that's
it's a
high
dig
level.
at all.
That's a high level job at Jeopardy right now.
Even lesser game show than Jeopardy, you could just have fun with it.
Yes.
I would like that job, but they meant it as a dig here.
And then Balky tries to help. He goes, excuse me, Cousin Larry happens to be a published writer. He fills in the bubbles for the cartoon Dimitri's World. Again, they're making it seem like it's a bad job, but that's also a great job.
Also, that's
right?
very cool, yeah.
And Trevor's like, ooh, very impressive, and they're making fun of him. And then he's like, now be a good little playwright and get off my stage. And Larry yells at him because you, sir, are theatrically illiterate. He goes, I thought you thought The King and I was the story of Elvis and Priscilla.
And then Balky's like, you mean it's not?
Okay, so The King and I
is about the Siamese king.
Oh, that's it. The King of Siam, etc., etc.
Shall we dance?
Of course,
but
he means
Elvis was known as
Presley
the king.
and Priscilla. Yes. But Balky thought The King and I was about Elvis, a biopic. No, that's the movie Elvis with Austin Butler, Balky. You could watch that.
Siam. Mm-hmm.
And Trevor has had it and very quickly just decides to quit. He's like, I don't need this aggravation. I don't need this play. I quit. He's just all this work. He throws the script on the ground and storms off.
At Trevor which point, I completely understand that this is now the premise of this episode. Yes. But I'm like, who would do that? You pick a play, you spend weeks or the whole summer, or whatever it is, even though it's community theater or whatever at the recreation center. Like this director chose this play, cast it, had the set produced, practiced it, and now week of their opening on Friday, he's like, I'm out.
Well,
I quit. Who does that?
This is a
because one guy shows up on one day and is like, don't change my word.
Yes. Feud is very quick, short-lived, and Trevor quit. But this is a contagious kind of reaction.
Yeah.
Because then what happens?
Because then Larry's like, okay, whatever. And so Trevor storms off. He's like, good, who needs him? And then the main actor who's playing Lawrence, Brad, he goes, oh, I do. He's my ride. And then he goes, I quit too, and drops his script on the stage and leaves.
Fair enough. The guy, it was his ride. How's he going to get home? If he's quitting, I got to go.
Okay, this was 92. We didn't have Ubers.
So Larry picks up his script, and now he's holding 2 scripts. And he's like, he turns to all the people in the back and goes, well, you guys still want to put on this play, don't you? And they all just stare at him. And they all simultaneously throw down their scripts
and leave. Like a whole cast of like 6 or 7 people.
And Melky's like, boy, I'm guessing Trevor has a van.
Okay, so
they're all his rides.
Go back to the question I just asked.
How many hours
Not
of work
only the director, the main actor, the whole cast, all of them were just like, oh, never mind that we just spent the last however long
probably
months,
like a month or
weeks,
2. How many hours?
Rehearsing this play.
In a few days.
We've sold tickets and all my friends or family are coming here on Friday. Because the opening night is sold out because it's all their friends and family, and they walk out.
Loyal.
It makes no sense.
They're awfully loyal to the director.
But it moves
and the
this
star.
story along, but it makes no sense.
Yes, it's hilarious.
Okay, so before we go on, a couple of notes. The scripts that they show for Wheat are like yellow pages and like bound in white pages bound in yellow cover.
Well, it's like an orange cover.
Yeah. Apparently, this was
yeah.
the same exact orange yellow color that the Perfect Strangers scripts are
they
bound
just
in,
used
so
the same paper.
That was a little Easter egg.
Wheat. Also, you may have recognized one of these guys. I certainly did. We'll just get right to him. Brad, the lead, who's playing Lawrence.
Is the delivery guy who says Balkai Bartoko Mouse.
Robert Gary Lee, who's also was
Larry Appletone.
Who's also the warm-up guy for when they shot the show in the studio audience. And it's great he gets a couple more lines. I missed him. Balkai Bartoko Mouse. I'm Balkai.
Larry Appletone.
I'm Larry. And then who plays the director with the ponytail?
The director with the ponytail is an actor named Patrick Kupo, who had been on some shows of the era, Cagney and Lacey, Who's the Boss, Valerie. He was on Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Criminal Minds, and he also was a writer and producer in Hollywood. And then one of the women who was in the cast is the woman who we often see in the Chronicle basement when they used to work in the basement in the back. She's like a regular
That one lady that's always standing back there at those files. I remember her.
Yeah. So
here we weren't going to see her because they got
I wonder if they're like, okay, especially somebody from the Chronicles in this play. Still, why hasn't Larry
they're all Chronicle employees, and he still didn't know, and they still quit on him.
And they still quit. It makes no sense.
So anyways, everybody walks out, and Lydia comes running in onto the stage. She goes, Larry, I just ran into Trevor. I cannot believe you made him quit. She got an earful. And Larry's like, well, whatever. You get another director, some more actors. You can open in a couple of months. They were going to open in 4 days later. There's probably posters. There's probably
tickets sold. They didn't have social media then to announce.
No, there's been a lot of arrangements.
Postponement.
You're messing up the whole thing of your own play.
How do you just move the opening night? Yeah. And then Balky's all supportive of waiting. He's like, oh, that would give me time to perfect my curtain closing.
Curtain.
He says, every time I practice in the shower, someone's in it and they scream and ruin my timing. Who is he walking in on in his shower?
Oh, boy, who's he seen? He's seen everyone.
Yeah.
In the shower.
So then Lydia's like, okay, really easily, I suppose we could postpone, but I don't know if Clive Rich will be available in 2 months. Uh-oh, the plot thickens.
There's like Clive Rich. Clive Rich was going to be here.
The Clive
Rich was going to review my play.
Apparently, he's the big local theater critic in Chicago.
So Lydia's like, that's okay. I'll have to call him off. He can come later. And
he was going to come on opening night.
On opening night to review, she starts to walk away. And then Larry just can't let this happen. And he stops her. He's like, no, wait, Lydia. He goes, don't call anyone. He goes, you know the old show business saying?
And Balky's like, feed a cold, starve an actor?
That's funny.
Starve a fever.
Feed a cold, starve a fever. No, Larry corrects him. It's the show must go on. And he says it will. He will be the director. And Larry Appleton will star in Wheat. Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. They got themselves into one now.
Okay, this story is just like conveniently moving so fast. Everybody just changes their mind when they need to, whatever. So we cut to the next day, and we see the recreation center again.
Oh, in a
and
daytime
there's
shot.
Caption that says the rehearsal.
It's the rehearsal. And Larry runs in, and now, how do you know he's a director?
He's got a sweater tied over his shoulders.
Well, he doesn't tie it. He just has it hanging, draped over. Right. But he's got the director's sweater.
And he's got a bunch of scripts.
He's got a bunch of scripts.
And on stage waiting for him are none other than Balky, Jennifer, Marianne, and Lydia.
Oh, boy. What's going on here?
Lydia's producing and in the play.
Yeah.
And so Larry apparently has roped them all in to play the parts. And he's like, gathers them around. He's like, all right, everybody. And he says, I know it's only a few days until we open. Okay, so we're a little bit later, and this is a long week. But he said he stayed up all night rewriting Wheat. So that the 5 of them can handle all the parts.
Okay.
So he says he's going to play Lawrence, the lead role and narrator.
Uh-huh.
He says Balky will play his brother Billy.
Okay.
And he's handing out scripts as he's telling all these roles. And Jennifer is going to play a character named Lois.
Okay.
And Marianne will play a character named Bobby Sue.
Okay.
And Lydia will be the Apple Lady.
There's an Apple Lady.
And Lydia is concerned that they're going to make fools of themselves because they're not actors. And Marianne says, the only thing I ever acted in was the 6th grade hygiene pageant. I played Little Miss Gingivitis.
Yeah, that's a little
joke.
Not the best Marianne jokes in here.
And Larry's like, no problem. I'll guide you through. And this is so Larry. I know everything there is to know about the theater.
Oh, yeah? How come? You have past experience?
In college, I was the head ticket taker.
I was the head ticket taker.
Which is so funny because one of my many work study jobs was ushering in the theaters. Yeah. And my college had a big theater program, drama program. So the plays were like, people had like, local residents had like season tickets to these college productions. It was wild,
dude. If you're an usher in like one of the theaters downtown, that's a great gig.
You get to watch everything,
show over and over again.
A lot of those people are volunteers, like at the CSO
just to get to see it.
Yeah, and they're like seniors.
Yeah. They're either they're either like teenagers or they're like 80, 90-year-olds. Yeah. That's how it is where some places
they're staying active and getting art for free just by showing people to their seats.
So he says he was head ticket taker, and Balky goes, "Oh, that's why they called you Stubby." Short joke, ticket stubs.
Short joke,
love it.
And ticket taker.
So Jennifer has this whole time been reading her script and turns to Larry and goes, "Larry, I just read the description of Lois, and when we get through this, we're gonna have a nice long discussion about why you think your wife should play your mother."
And she's like angry.
He cast her, his wife, as his mother.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it could be funny and cute, but she got really offended by it. Not only that, but we find out later that Marianne is cast as his girlfriend in the play.
Bobby Sue. Why wouldn't you just flip him? Why wouldn't you just Marianne make Lydia be the mother? It doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense.
Or Lydia as the mother. Anybody, yeah.
Anyways, he's like, we'll talk about it later, and he brushes everyone off. He's like, you guys go learn your lines. I'm going to do rehearsal. And as they walk off, Marianne has another tag to her theater experience joke. She goes, at least in this play, I won't be washed off the stage by a giant water pick.
Yeah, they're not the best.
Oh, my God, that's the worst Marianne stuff in here. Not the best. So anyways, we're left with Balky and Larry, and Balky has the script, and Balky has some issues. He says, I have 2 small problems, cousin. He goes, I'll give you the big one first. If I play your brother, how will I be able to pull the curtain? He goes, I have a lot of time invested in that. Well, so did all those other people, and they just quit. They just quit.
And Larry just says you can still pull the curtain, and Balky's like, okay. I'm like, he didn't even answer the question.
Yes,
like, how?
You'll still have time.
He's like,
whatever.
you can still, and there was no explanation. He's like, you can still pull. That's like such an interesting writing choice in the writers of this episode. I'm like, what? You're just glossing over with.
He goes, you can still pull the curtain. Really? Yes. And he goes, okay, what's the second thing?
Problem.
I love it. Keep it moving. The second problem is Balky goes, I don't think I can play your brother, Billy. And he throws the script onto the table. And Larry's like, why not? He goes, Billy in the script is a mean, angry person, and I don't think I can be someone mean and angry. He says it's too different from what he is. And then he's like, maybe make Balky an immigrant male boy who draws a cartoon. Billy, sorry. He's like, I think I could get that. So Balky cannot connect with the character of Billy in Wheat.
And Larry starts to Larry-splain. He says, you don't have to be a mean person to act a mean character in a play. You just have to think of a mean person and then you become that person. You think of a mean person, then you become that person. So just think of somebody who is really mean. And Balky thinks for a moment and he says, I don't know anybody really mean. Wait a minute. When he said that, I was like, Gorpley.
What about Gorpley? He could have thought of Gorpley.
So mean.
But maybe he doesn't think Gorpley's mean and he thinks he's fun,
because Balky sees the best in everyone. Yeah, that's true. So he says, I don't know anyone really mean. And Larry says, yeah, sure you do. Just keep thinking. He's like, wait, you used to tell me about this bully on Mypos who used to steal your lunch and you were, when you were going over Goatwater Bridge to get to school. And he's like, what was the name? Oh, Brunos.
Oh, Balky goes, oh, I can't talk about that right now, cousin. And he walks to the back of the set. It has clearly affected him because I still get nightmares. And Larry's like, no, that's okay. Larry says, you don't have to think about what he did to you. Just think about who he was. And he wants Balky to describe him.
And so Balky thinks for a minute, looking off into space, thinking face. And he goes, he was as big as an ox. And Larry's like, what else? And Balky still looking off and thinking, he was as strong as an ox. And then there's another, he says, he smelled like an ox. And he goes, wait a minute. He was an ox. I'm thinking of the family ox, Mikey, and he like laughs, which is like such a goofy little joke.
It's all right. It's also not the best.
I don't know
it's just he's like, I was thinking of family ox, Mikey. Larry's like, Brunos.
Think of
Let's
Brunos.
get back to Brunos. And Balky's like, okay, I got him. And Larry's like, okay, well, just describe him. And Balky goes, and he says, what did he sound like? And then Balky goes, when he talked, it was like thunder. Larry's like,
okay, how did he move?
Balky goes, when he walked, the whole island shook. He goes, he wasn't invited out very often. Nobody liked Brunos.
And Larry says, why not?
And Balky tells him because he was big and smelly and scary.
And Larry says, and have you ever thought how that made him feel?
Oh, he's getting into the psychology of Brunos. And now Balky is worked up and goes, angry.
And he's screaming and yelling. And Larry says, become Brunos. And then Balky is like turns to Larry and like we're meant to believe
he grabs him at the neck like he's choking him, but then he's lifting him up in the air.
But clearly Marklin Baker like stepped on something.
Yes, he obviously stepped on an apple box. But I was like, is he meant to?
Never done before. I don't know why.
Are they trying to imply that Balky is lifting him up and choking him
off the ground? And anyway, we're meant to believe that he's lifting him off the ground, throttling him, choking him. He's like, it's Friday night and I'm alone and I smell bad.
She's becoming Brunos. And Larry's like, great. You're doing great. He sets him down. He gives him the script. He goes, all right. He wants him to use it. He goes, let's use it. Just try it with the lights. And Balky's like, okay, all right, here we go. He gives him the script. Here we go. Balky, and then Larry goes, angry. Balky goes, angry. He goes, okay, now. And then Larry feeds him the line. He goes, who parked the thresher down by the old creek road? And Balky has the script and he goes, I did. What are you going to do about it? And Larry's like, nope, you lost it. You lost the anger. It went all right out the window.
Balky looks all proud like he did.
He's like,
well. And Larry's like,
he delivers that line. I did what? Yeah. And he's like, I did it. And then Larry's just like, oh, went out the window.
And then when he said that, Balky turns to like go look out the fake window.
Oh, yes. He turned, and then Larry has to pull it back.
All right. Then Larry has an idea. He's like, okay, what we have to do is like, we need you to retain the anger when you say these lines. So what we need is a word that will help you become Brunos, a key word that will set off your memory of Brunos when he was at his meanest. Like a trigger almost.
Yes, a trigger word for Brunos.
So he's like thinking, what word can we use? He goes, all right, where would you see Brunos? And Balky says, when I was on my way to school. Larry's like, okay, you'd be on your way to school and you'd have your lunch. And he's like, I'd have my lunch. I'd be crossing over the bridge. And Larry's thinking of it. He's like, okay, school over. Then he's like, okay, all right, I've got it. Lunch. It's so funny. And Balky's like, bridge. And Larry's like, school. And Balky goes, bridge, getting angry. And he goes, all right, path. And Balky goes, bridge. And he goes crazy, like angry Balky. And Larry's like, I've got it, bridge.
At that point again, he grabs him by the neck and lifts him up and starts choking him again.
He said bridge.
He said bridge, the trigger word. Larry says he's doing great. He puts him down again. He's like, okay, good. Every time you hear that word, you will become Bruno's. We can put that word anywhere in the script. Let's try it with the lines again. Here we go. He gives him the script. They go set up in front of the stage. And Larry's like, okay, one more time. Ready? And then he feeds him his line again. He goes, Billy, who parked the thresher down by Old Creek Bridge?
And when Balky hears bridge, he becomes Bruno's, angry Bruno's, and he throws down his script and he grabs Larry by the shirt. And this time he doesn't go up because they're in front of the table.
Yeah, you can't cover the box.
You can't fake it. So he just grabs him by the throat and starts strangling him. He says, I did. What are you going to do about it? Which is the line. And then he throws him straight forward toward the cameras off the stage into the seats.
Oh, he throws him off the stage into the audience. Yeah, it's crazy.
And then we fade to black, and that's the end of Act 1. But wait, I have a question. So Larry, just like that, like somehow hypnotized Balky,
Larry has accidentally set a trigger word. Is he
like a mentalist or something?
That's amazing. That's very quick.
Out of nowhere, he's like.
And if you think of the technique he used, it was kind of like what you would do. But I don't think he meant
Larry
to do that.
Is secretly a psychopath?
I think so. But this is all out of selfish motivation, right?
Yeah.
To make his thing better, he's accidentally connected and hypnotized Balky to a trigger word.
Talk about manipulation.
Which he will forget when he needs to conveniently, but also remember it's great.
But
anyways,
for now,
yes,
we
have a trigger word.
Act 1 with
bridge.
Balky flying into a rage.
Balky into a frenzy.
And the show's opening in a couple nights. And the critics coming, presumably,
Clive Rich. The Clive Rich is coming. Listener, you can join this conversation. Join our Facebook group. It's called Dance of Joy Podcast Group, I think. There's a link in the episode description. But I post threads of the episodes that we're going to record ahead of time. So you can watch along, leave your comments, observations. We will read them at the end of the show. And you can also make lifelong friends who love to geek out about perfect strangers. And it's a great time now because the day we're recording, Beverly Hills Cop Axel F
is on
has
Netflix
come out. So
at the moment today.
We're going to watch it after this. We'll give you our thoughts in the next episode, possibly do a full review or something. But there's a lot of great interviews with Bronson on the red carpet doing the Serge voice. So he's everywhere, it seems, promoting this movie now.
I read something saying he doesn't like all this, and he didn't want to go to the premiere even, but then they convinced him to.
Yeah, they kind of made it's kind of crazy that he's doing
and
this
he wore
character.
this beautiful
we talked about the suit last week. Yeah, we heard that clip. It's crazy that he gets to do this character after all these years. It's almost like him doing
I'm sure he changed it a little bit.
We'll see. I think I've heard it's actually kind of fun. So
it's a mix of two people he knew, Swedish and Israeli.
Serge was, yes.
Yeah, we'll talk. I'm looking forward to watching it.
If you're in the Facebook group, if you've seen the movie, leave your thoughts. We'd love to hear
discuss
your opinions on Beverly Hills Axel F.
We come back after the break, and we have our episode Act 2. We see the outside of the recreation center at night, and the caption says opening night. Oh, we made it. It's Friday. Night. And then we cut to the inside. It's a full audience in this auditorium. Very 80s, 90s looking audience, I might add. And people are like, chit-chatting, and the lights dim, and then there's a spotlight on the stage. And we see in the spotlight just Larry standing awkwardly in a drab, beige outfit, pants, shirt, and a vest, meant to evoke Depression era beigeness.
And he's holding wheat.
He's holding a stalk of wheat,
large stalk of wheat,
like a football in one hand, and the other hand is just nervously at his side, and he's looking straight out at the audience in the spotlight, and it's quiet, and he just goes, wheat. Miles and miles of wheat. In an era of depression and hardship, there emerged a young man struggling to save his family from a failed wheat crop and economic decline, all while trying to realize his dream of becoming an author. I'm Lawrence, and this is my story. Wheat.
I love his delivery as this narrator.
I love that the hand that was not holding the wheat down by his side, his fingers were just fidgeting the whole time.
Oh yeah, well, so he's a little nervous. He's playwright acting in his own play, and the curtains open, and we see the set, and then we see someone that's dressed like an old woman with their back facing to us on the left in the kitchen cooking something. And Larry puts down the wheat and introduces her. He goes, "This is my mother, Ma." And she slowly turns around and doesn't look happy to be playing
You know what
Ma,
her
as we know.
costume reminded me of? Like, didn't Carol Burnett have like a similar old lady costume on her show?
Yeah, but or there was the janitor character,
Yeah.
but it was not Carol Burnett.
Carol
It was
Burnett,
the
it
other
was-
girl who was in Mama's Family.
Vicki Lawrence.
Vicki Lawrence.
Vicki Lawrence.
Yes. Who was, but it's kind of like Mama.
Yeah.
It's like Vicki Lawrence Mama
Mama's
type
Family,
outfit.
yeah.
Yes, but
okay, that's what I was thinking.
clearly
that era of
Jennifer not enjoying this. And his lines for this play don't make it any better. Because he goes, "Ma was a hardworking woman who paid the price of pioneer life. Her face was as dry and cracked as
my
the
gosh.
drought-ridden earth." And he goes, "She was 40, but looked 60.
I love that line.
Jennifer
I love that
just
line
gets
so
angrier
much.
and
She was
angrier.
40 but looked 60.
And she goes, "Every afternoon, Ma summoned me to supper with her pleasant, almost melodic voice." And she's just like, "Come and get it, Lawrence." She's really mad. And she's cooking. She was stirring a thing in a pot, and she pulls out a sandwich. And slams the sandwich down on
That
the
is
table.
so funny. Yeah, I was like, where did that sandwich come from?
And now this is the first instance where Larry has to improv this whole thing because people are not cooperating. He's like, "But she wasn't feeling well today." And she goes, "No matter how Ma felt, Ma was always waiting there to greet me with a hug." And he walks over to her to hug her, and she turns
She's
her
just
back
pissed
on
the
him.
whole time.
She turns her arms on him, and then he's like, "Oh, I got to think on my feet." He goes, "Except Tuesday. There was no hugging on Tuesdays." So now he's like improving and rewriting this thing that he already rewrote last night
Improvising, yes.
as this play continues.
And so he carries on with his monologue, but he gets interrupted by Balky, who runs onto the stage. He's like, his costume is like overalls and like a 5 o'clock shadow, like scruff on his face. And he runs on stage and he goes, "Hello, Lawrence. It is I, your brother Billy."
And then Larry has to break. He goes, "Get off the stage.
Not
Get off.
now,
Not
get
now.
off, get off, go away, go away.
Go away." Just
It's
breaking
so
in
funny.
front of people.
And it's like immediate,
Yes.
right? They're almost talking over each other.
And he runs off, and you hear things clatter, and Larry tries to continue. "We used to enjoy," and then Balky just comes back again, and Larry's like, "No,
He
get
like
off."
barks at him again, and Balky runs off. And he's like, "Oh boy, this play." All right. So then he goes on with his next line. He goes to like the front door of the house in the set, and he starts to like, and it sticks. He's trying to open it, so he like
this
fights
door
it a
is
little.
not working.
And then he finally gets it open. He says, "We always used to enjoy a visit from the Apple Lady." And he opens the door. And then Lydia enters from the stage
Off
wing,
stage in front of
but
him, not the door,
not
where they're
through
supposed
the
to
door
enter. Yes.
on the set, which is a funny gag that will recur.
And she's in this red dress with this hat, and it's got a basket. She has an apple in her hand, and she
Yeah.
crosses over to Jennifer, you notice, and has her back to the audience.
Yeah.
As Larry walks over to the center, and he's continuing with this play. One of her favorite activities was to gossip. One of Apple Lady's favorite activities was to gossip. And he's trying to like wave her over there.
Yeah.
He's like, "Get over
Like,
here."
come over here.
And she's holding an apple out at him with her back still to
Yeah.
the audience. And he goes, "Once she started talking, there was no stopping her. So, Apple Lady, what's new?" At that point, Lydia turns to the audience with the apple and goes, "Well," and she sees the audience, and her face just mouth wide open. Her
too.
eyes, she freezes. She is in shock. She is experiencing stage fright
Extreme stage fright.
to where she's paralyzed. And I love the shots of the audience. They start to cut in here as things go really bad.
Yeah.
The audience is just like,
Like,
"Oh
what
my
the
God.
heck?"
Oh boy, what is
Yeah.
this?
Ugh.
What's going on?"
Ugh.
But this
My
Lydia thing
word.
is consistent to Lydia's character.
No,
Sort of.
well, she had stage fright when she did her talk show, but that one was specifically about the cameras.
And there were people sitting there watching
yeah, there
her.
was audience. She was fine.
She didn't
for
mind
the
with the
audience.
people.
It was the cameras, and then she was like, even in the shower, whatever, some joke about the cameras. Anyway,
Yes.
cameras. It was specific to cameras, but not.
But just people, okay, so maybe
But
it's
maybe it
changed.
got worse
It got
since
worse.
then.
And Lydia is literally standing there frozen with her mouth wide open. And Larry's trying to so what's new, Apple Lady? And then he goes, one of Apple Lady's second favorite activities was to come into a room and stand there like a stone. He's getting really mad.
And then he's tries to move the play along despite all these terrible interruptions. And he yells off stage. He's like, Marianne. And then Balky comes running on again going, hello, Lawrence. It is I, your brother Bill. Larry's like, no, not yet. Go get Marianne. And he turns him around, pushes him off the stage. And every time Balky gets pushed off the stage into the wings, you hear this big
falling,
commotion, crashing things and whatever. We don't know what it is. So then he pushes Balky off. There's a clatter, and he goes back to that door of the house.
Which will not open again. Not easy to open.
Struggles with it again. And then he's saying, as he's trying the door, he's saying that he's talking about his sweetheart love, Bobby Sue. And he finally opens the door. He's like, hi, Bobby Sue. And he stands there looking out the door of the house. But then Balky pushes Marianne on the stage from the wings in front of the set, just like Lydia had entered.
So he cast Marianne as his sweetheart love, and cast Jennifer as his mother. Lois is very interesting.
What was he thinking?
Very interesting. Anyways, she steps on stage, and she has one hand behind her back, and she's like, hi, Lawrence. And he steps up to her. He's like, Bobby Sue was very considerate. He goes, she always brought over a bottle of fresh milk from her cow, Bessie. And Marianne moves her hand in front to reveal wheat. She's holding a bunch of wheat.
And she goes, I couldn't find the milk, she says to Larry. And then she says to the audience, Lawrence, may I pour you a tall, cold glass of... And then she tips the wheat as if she's pouring a bottle from a bottle. And she goes, oh, now that doesn't work at all, does it? And then Larry gets fed up with all of this. He pushes Marianne off towards the wing. And then he goes across the stage to grab Jennifer and Lydia. And he's like, so Bobby, Sue, and Mom moved to the big city. And he pushes them off stage. And they took the Apple Lady with them to use as a doorstop.
He
and
gets
pushes them away.
Moving
off
this ahead.
The stage.
Yeah.
So he's improvising all the advances.
And he goes back to that door and it doesn't open. He finally opens. He goes, okay. And with Ma and the rest of them gone, I was able to spend time alone with my brother, Billy. And then finally the cue that Bucky's been waiting for, he's blown 4 times. Nothing happens. And then Larry looks and goes, my brother, Billy. And again, instead of entering through the door, somebody pushes Balky from the offstage wings right onto the stage.
And this time, he's not prepared. He's got a sandwich and a cup of coffee.
It looks like a donut and a coffee. I think he found the craft services table. Yes.
Yeah.
And he was having a little snack, and he starts to do his lines. And he's like, hello, Lawrence, it is I, your brother, Billy. And then he takes a bite of the sandwich or the donut or whatever it is.
And Larry does the whole thing where he gets exasperated, grabs the donut and coffee from him, puts it on the table, and then Balky keeps doing his lines. He's like, your brother Billy, and then Larry smacks him on the back of the head, and the classic gag, that bite of donut comes flying out.
This is bad theater etiquette. You can't be eating while you give lines, and then you get another reaction shot of the audience, and they're all groaning. They're like, wow, it's so funny.
And this is all while they're delivering these lines, which is really Larry's character explaining Billy's character. So he's like, on the surface, Billy was a good kid, but underneath there lurked a time bomb waiting to explode. And then he says to Balky, so Billy, who parked the Thresher down by Old Creek Bridge?
Uh-oh.
And Balky goes into a rage on cue because we've hypnotized him somehow. And he grabs Larry by his shirt and he's shaking him and choking him. And he goes, I did. What are you going to do about it, huh? And he's really angry and shaking him. And Larry's like, nothing. Sorry, I asked. That's his character now. He's like, and then he's like, you're doing great.
Larry breaks and goes, you're doing great. And then Balky goes, oh, thank you. He goes, I've been practicing.
So suddenly he's out of the rage.
So the trigger worked. He got the line out, but then it just stopped right away.
It stopped.
Because he started talking to him or yes?
Not a very long impact trigger.
Okay, so great. The trigger's short term. Wonderful.
Slow release. No, short term. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's back to regular Balky, and then Larry kind of takes him and puts him where he needs to be for the next lines. And Larry says to the audience, "Sure, Billy had his problems. we all had our problems, but he was able to bridge that gap.
Uh-oh.
He didn't realize that he said bridge. And Larry is now like upstage,
Yeah,
downstage.
and Balky's behind the table.
Downstage by the audience, and Balky's further
Upstage
back behind him, and
table.
Larry doesn't see, but he said he was able to bridge that gap, and Balky hears bridge, and he like physically, we see silent, this great physical comedy.
Yeah, he does
see
this
his
great.
body like convulse into a rage.
Like he's holding it
His
in,
face,
it's
his
getting bigger,
arms,
like he's in pain.
yeah.
He's like,
the rage monster taking over. Larry doesn't notice any of this.
so
and doesn't
Larry
realize
just
it.
used the trigger and then forgot that was a trigger
Yeah, he
word
forgot.
and just said it again. Very smart writing.
So
And he's
well, you know, he's on stage. There's a lot happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and then the gag is these lines about Billy. He's talking about Billy could be an understanding, kind, and thoughtful, filled with compassion, a caring brother. As he's saying this,
getting into a bigger and bigger rage.
and then he just finishes with, "Wherever Billy went, there was only love." And at that point, Balky can't hold it in anymore. He grabs Larry by the throat. He goes, "Shut up and give me your lunch," and starts choking him and dragging. He drags him off stage to the right.
So then we have a good bit of this, like
the audience is like, "What is going on?"
Comedy, like vaudevillian physical comedy. Describe it, please.
Well, they do that. You hear some crashing, and then you do that thing where Larry crawls back on stage, and then he gets pulled back suddenly, dragged back, and you hear more clattering. And then Larry finally runs out, breathing heavy, and he's leaning on the table. He goes, "I guess today's the day that Billy goes off to college. Bye, Billy." He goes, "Right. He never will." And he goes, "Oh, where was I? Where was I?" And then he sees the wheat. He picks it up. He goes, "Oh, wheat." He's trying to reset.
And then, so he's trying to go on with this by himself, but then Balky runs back on stage. He's still in a rage, and he's like, and he screams, "Aha!" And Larry's like, "Oh, spring break already?" He's
Larry's
holding the story together,
rewriting the thing as it's going. And he's trying to calm him down, and they
have like
run
a
around
chase around the stage and the set.
They run around the stage, and Larry's like, "Billy had trouble adjusting to college." And then they run around the table again. He's like pulling chairs out to slow Balky down, and Balky's just throwing the chairs
all
into the audience, and they're at the ends of the table again.
Larry tries to explain it in the script that he's improvising on the spot. He's like, "Oh, like many struggling freshmen, he developed a bizarre furniture throwing disorder." What?
And he goes, "Sure, there were barriers between us," at which point Balky throws the whole table that's behind them, between them.
Barrier. Yeah, throws the table
just
aside.
Knocks it over.
He's like, Billy was always able to tear him down. And then Balky finally grabs him by the neck again, pulls him all the way downstage to the edge of the stage. And he goes, "Now you're going off the bridge." And again, he throws Larry like straight out into the audience.
Onto the floor.
Just flings him off the stage.
Then you hear a woman just yell out,
No, it's Larry.
Oh, it's Larry. That's right. I always thought
Larry like goes flying off, and then we just hear him go, "Curtain, curtain." And then Balky snaps out of it. He's like, "Curtain, that's my job." And he goes and pulls the curtain.
So that trigger lasted a long time.
Yeah, it makes no sense. None of this is logical. Like somehow they hypnotized him.
Hypnotized Balky.
And the effects conveniently pass very quickly when they need to and linger for a long time.
And can be elongated, yes. It's all varying
to
effects.
serve the very holy script.
It's very
to serve the storyline that has a lot of questions.
Convenient.
We just have to believe it all.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's basically what happened on opening night.
Disaster.
Did
what?
they refund everybody's money?
I'm actually jealous of that audience. I would have loved to have seen this. It would have been hilarious.
Oh
I would have been in it. How funny would that
I love
have been?
it when things
when things go crazy. Like that's where you want to be.
direction.
That audience was so stuffy. They were like, oh, come on. You're getting an amazing show.
Folks. Why are you coming to the recreation center to have a good time?
You got physical harm happening right in front of you.
Yeah.
It's like a danger act because we see.
You don't know what's real. It's like Nathan
Fielder
guy. You don't know what's real and you don't know what's
They're pulling an Andy Kaufman on you here. Because
brilliant.
We transition to later at the house. The door opens. Everybody comes in, and Larry is wearing a neck brace and he has on crutches because he has the full leg cast.
Full leg, all the way up to the
knee.
thigh.
It goes above the knee. You can't bend
and it's
the
like
knee.
Straight plaster cast.
And he is so this Balky really did a number on.
But the thing is, Balky threw him off the stage in the rehearsal too.
Yeah, that didn't hurt him.
He didn't get hurt.
The second time he may just have landed wrong. I don't know.
Maybe, or like somebody had
something.
Yeah, in the audience.
So more physical comedy gags as they get him over to the sofa, and Larry sits down, and Marianne's sitting down next to him, and she has put one of the sofa cushions on the table, and she lifts his cast leg on top of she's about to put it on the sofa cushion.
That's going to be too high. It's basically this gag where Marianne's trying to help Larry put his leg up on a cushion, but there are 3 misses, and his leg goes slamming onto the coffee table.
That's going to be too high, and she moves it away and lets it go dunk, and then she grabs another
one. Larry
leg,
makes
lifts it up.
painful writhes
and Bucky says, "Oh, no, don't use that one," and she moves it away, dunk 3 times.
And then Balky's like, "Here's one," and he tosses the cushion on. She's holding his leg up.
It slides past his leg, I think, and then it goes down.
She drops his leg, but the pillow goes all the way to the other side, so it hits another dunk down. It's 3 quick ones in a row, and it's it's a funny gag. I don't know. That would hurt, I guess.
Yes, poor Larry is in pain.
He doesn't acknowledge that at all, except for writhing in pain. But then here comes his like redemption moment, sort of. He says, "I did it again. I know I did it again. I couldn't leave well enough alone. If I hadn't taken over the play and insisted on doing it my way, everything would have been fine."
Well, at least he have some self-realization there. He's self-aware.
Yeah, but it's like too easy. It's not believable. In my mind, if this was Larry and it happened, like, at this point, he would still be like, "You guys all messed up my play.
You guys butchered my play.
What is
I
wrong
had to
with
improv.
you? Why didn't you do better?"
Wheat was perfect.
This is a very quick, like, self-reflection moment.
I wonder what the original play was with the original director and the other original actors. It was probably really good. He probably changed the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyways.
And Balky tries to make him feel better. He says, "Don't be so hard on yourself." And Jennifer is like, "Oh, are you ready to read the review yet?" Apparently the review's already out the next day. And Larry's like, "No, I don't want it. I don't want to hear anything that reminds me of wheat. I'm just glad the whole thing is over and done." And he says, "As far as I'm concerned, it's all just water under the bridge." And Balky's behind them on the couch at this point, and he hears the word bridge. Of course, Larry didn't realize he said it. And we just see Balky in the back, like, go into his anger face again. And then he, like, grabs Marianne by the head from behind.
Yeah,
and
pulls it. What is he going to do?
I don't know. Like, he's trying to rip her head off, pulls it up, and she screams. And then he drops her head and lunges for Larry. And then we freeze frame on the, "oh, no" moment and roll credits.
Listener, before we get into it, check out our TeePublic shop. You can get some great swag from danceofjoypod.com/shop. We'll get you there. We got hoodies, t-shirts, coffee mugs, cell phone cases, tote bags with the logo. It's a great way to support the show. Make sure you stop on by, pick up some gifts for yourself. Larry forgot to deprogram Balky, and now how long will this bridge trigger actually be in effect? Do they have to be careful in the future now and tell everyone,
Didn't he
don't
already
say this
have
word?
An Elvis trigger once?
He did. I forgot how it was like a bell or you got hypnotized.
He got hypnotized.
Yeah, he's very suggestible. So he's very suggestible.
And how did they... Oh, yeah, and then he had to go to some, like, government office for something for... Yeah, anyway, and then he kept going into Elvis. How did he come out of that? I don't remember.
It was every time there was like...
the guy came back to deprogram.
Yes, he did get the guy. He accidentally got hypnotized then, too. But, man, Larry has some powers.
And Balky is very suggestible.
Balky's very suggestive. Larry knows about the powers, how to program people.
That's
what
I'm saying. I think Larry's just secretly a psychopath.
He can condition people.
His emotional intelligence is very high. He knows how to manipulate people very well.
This may be how he landed Jennifer. She doesn't know it.
Yeah.
Subconsciously.
He probably manipulated her somehow.
Ooh,
he like dropped the little trigger words here and there. Yeah, I think he's very good at manipulating people.
But I like the detail of we see how much he hates his brother Billy he's still.
We've known this,
yes,
but then like presumably
they
they made up in one episode and whatever. But when
I thought they did, but I don't think he's over it.
He still.
So I don't know. What'd you think? To me, it was okay. There was a little bit of physical comedy.
It was just meh for me too. Like there are so many things we had to suspend and just believe for this story to work, it's fine. It's fun, but it was maybe a little too many. I was like, why is Jennifer like, and why, even if he did like intentionally and there was some reason to cast her as the mom, and you'd think they were just gonna have fun with it. Come on, it's not that big. It's not something to be angry about. I was like, what kind of wife are you? Just have fun with it.
She just can't roll with it.
So uptight.
Such a spoiled sport. Maybe he was like, this is the bigger role and it's more dramatic.
Maybe it was just like a cute and funny thing he wanted to do.
Is it funny you're playing my mom? We put on this wig, this costume.
I think that's funny, but she was so uptight. So like a lot of things didn't make sense, and like that part was like,
the most hilarious is everybody just quitting on a dime. That's hilarious.
Yeah, everyone just quit after rehearsal. First of all, the whole thing got produced without him ever finding out about it.
How did he not know?
Everybody just quit before opening night. And then because of one reviewer, they were like, no, we still got to do this.
I still want to see the original script as it was before he rewrote it. Wheat.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and he very quickly went from being like, I can't believe you showed anyone this script. It's going to be humiliated, to like, no, I want this reviewer to still come.
Yes, his words are sacred.
The whole cast just
I'm a brilliant
quit.
writer. Yes. Yeah. He can't. Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, it was all just like,
Larry's going to do what Larry.
But if we look at like what things they were trying to highlight, or if we try to think about that, it's like, I don't know. What was the thing that they wrote this around? You know, sometimes we're like, oh, this was just a tool to like have this funny physical comedy.
Yeah, the Balky Rage thing is really a big part of it. There's no like theater jokes. I thought they'd make some like inside theater.
Maybe they just wanted to hear Marklin Baker say wheat a bunch of times.
And that
was the gag they started
It's funny
with.
he says that back then because Family Guy, Stewie does like Wheat Thin commercials. Have you seen them?
No.
Where he's like, Wheat Thins, wheat. And they're like, why are you saying it like that? He goes, wheat. He's like, what?
Yeah.
Saying it like what? Wheat Thin.
Saying it like what?
Yeah. Like what? So Family Guy did it, but these guys did it before.
That gag was the initial.
I think they wrote a whole thing around just say wheat.
Maybe I could imagine a scene where they're all like sitting around and like Marklin Baker starts talking about wheat or something and they just think it's funny. And so they're like, what if we just had his character saying wheat?
It's also, I think they were like, here's something we haven't done yet is theater. He wrote a play. Sure, why not?
Of course, like he's a journalist. Writers experiment in other forms all the time. Yeah, people write plays all the time.
They write, so writer. Once you're a writer, you write a bunch of plays. All right, anyways, what did our listeners think?
So we're just like a meh. Okay.
Yeah.
Our listeners, first up we have listener cousin Whitney Smith, who starts off the way I just did. This episode has so many unanswered questions. To me, this seemed like a last minute idea, very last minute idea. Like we're shooting tomorrow, and we need to come up with something.
Sure,
idea.
I could see that.
Yeah,
yes,
maybe it was that. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know.
Great.
Okay, next up we have listener cousin Pam Hitchcock, who writes, I loved how MLB says wheat. Actually, a lot of people, Whitney Smith mentioned that as well. That seems to be like the big.
That's the only good like running gag of this whole thing is the wheat.
She goes, cracked me up every time. But she writes, I just couldn't get into this episode. It was typical Larry, although more overblown to the point of mania and extreme egotism. And I couldn't see Balky as a big angry Hulk, triggered by a word. Balky's always been easily manipulated by Larry, but when did Larry become a mentalist and start giving post-hypnotic suggestions? He wasn't even hypnotized. Yeah,
he's like an X-Man or something. He's a mutant power.
The whole premise, every part of this premise,
none of it makes sense.
Requires us to just like understand that all this stuff was happening the whole time. Like Larry can manipulate Balky like this. Lydia's into theater and is producing plays.
She's looking at scripts.
Larry's writing plays
and contrived. It's great and convenient.
Whatever.
That's what you
Okay,
did.
anyway, Cousin Pam continues. The episode itself came out of left field and made little to no sense. Too many loose threads. It's like a wheat maze. Okay, corn, whatever. Why wheat? Is it because wheat is considered a resilient plant and Larry thinks he overcame his horrible childhood by being resilient himself? Oh, the horrors of sharing a room and sibling rivalry. She writes, speaking of threads, oh, yeah, she liked Balky's vest and blue shirt. The vest was nice.
The vest was cool.
It was not me posing. It was like pastel, modern.
But it was like it was like a marker or a brushstroke, like someone loosely draw it. Very, very.
Yeah, it was artsy.
Very, modern art shapes and kind of strokes. Like it was painted in. It was a good vest.
Yeah, this was earlier in the rehearsal scenes. She writes, Jennifer reminded me of, Mama from Mama's Family.
Yes.
And she says, that's a compliment. Yes. Nice that they brought back Lydia's fear of live audiences / cameras. I think that's another thing they conveniently just used. I don't think it was a fear of live audiences. I think it was a fear of cameras.
It is now because that's how they wrote it.
All right. She gives this episode 8 Baba Stickies for the episode. That's pretty bad. Heaven only knows why I'm giving it any points because of the way Marklin Baker pronounces wheat, Belky's vest, and a Lydia appearance. Really reaching. And then she also gave the play a rating, the play in the episode, wheat, and 10 Baba Stickies.
Oh, it was worse.
All the Baba Stickies.
The play within the play was worse.
Given that Larry's from Wisconsin, shouldn't it be cheese or cheddar pronounced in some weird way with the H? Aged cheese is resilient too.
I mean, cheese is a funny word, but how are you going to make it like
wheat is a funnier word. Okay. So pretty bad.
Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, she's right though. Yeah.
Next up, we have listener cousin Jason Korinko, who also did not like this episode.
Everyone's on the same page.
He says, maybe as a former theater kid, I'm a harsher critic. There's so much information that we are learning about for the first time in this episode. Yes. Larry wrote a play.
Yep.
Lydia has a theater group. Balky had beef with Bruno's. And then he makes a modern pun in parentheses. We don't talk about Bruno's, which is about the song called We Don't Talk About Bruno from the Encanto movie. Lin-Manuel, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Wrote a lot of that music.
I've still never seen that.
Encanto?
Yeah.
Oh, it's good.
I heard it's good.
Cousin Jason writes so many things that are only true for this episode and then never again. I think that's going to start being a theme from now till the end. The one callback that was appropriate was Lydia's stage fright, but then why did she agree to play the role? Correct. A sloppy episode, but I cannot help but think it had something to do with Marklin Baker's appearance in the movie Noises Off, which premiered the day before this episode aired. Oh. If you want to see a funny story of a play being rehearsed and performed with slapstick, wordplay, and incompetence, that's a movie to check out. Interesting. Oh, so it was the whole plot was a nod to that movie?
Possibly, which I don't know.
Marklin Baker has a small role in it, he writes, so perhaps this episode was an attempt to capitalize on that. I'm trying to give it the benefit of the doubt because otherwise I have a gluten allergy for wheat.
It's not gluten friendly.
Oh, okay. So that might be
I don't remember
where
this movie being
why
a big
this
deal.
is so random if they're trying to like spoof that or nod to it or
like
something.
some kind of cross promotion or some marketing. But I don't remember that movie doing that well.
Did you see it?
No.
Thank you for sharing that, cousin Jason. Next up, we have listener cousin John Hernandez, who loved the episode.
What?
Get out of the city!
Wow. He says Larry's pride, ego, and neurotic behavior on full display, 3 exclamation marks, and then a wheat emoji and the word wheat exclamation mark.
He's not wrong.
Okay.
It is Larry's pride, ego, and neuroticism.
If you want to see all of Larry's bad
all at once
character flaws, hilarious character flaws at once, then this is the episode for you. So cousin John Hernandez liked it.
That's
okay,
great.
so we have a few against and 1 for. And next up we have cousin listener Nicole Stoner, who writes, knowing that Bronson and Mark have both got their bachelor's in theater and MFAs in theater and drama from Yale. They both studied theater and drama at Yale. Makes this episode even more amusing to watch. And another wheat emoji.
Wheat.
Yeah, that's interesting. They're like, they had a high class education to play like really bad actors in a
They
bad
are
play.
theater nerds.
Yeah.
Went on to play. Yeah.
And this is my favorite listener comment. Comes from listener cousin Gabitha Edwards, who wrote Bridge.
Just Bridge. Bridge. I bet the next time somebody says Bridge
so
in front
funny.
of him. nothing
Gabitha
happens.
Edwards, you win. Best comment for this episode.
Don't be ridiculous was not said.
Of course I have. Don't be ridiculous.
But we did.
We do see Dimitri's photograph on the mantle of the fireplace. That's where the photo is. Where is our Dimitri intern? We need more Dimitri.
Well, I just posted on the Facebook group the threads for the last 4 episodes of season 7.
Oh.
And it looks like in one of them, Dimitri makes a pretty impactful appearance.
You know what I'm thinking too? Like the house is so big now that Dimitri's like in the bedroom where Balky has his personal time. So they just have the photo downstairs because the apartment was smaller. You could just go and get him.
Balky would need Dimitri with him.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's talk about PS Today or Perfect Strangers Today, which is the segment of this podcast in which we discuss, can we make this episode today without any problems or what things would need to change? Tweet can still.
You know, as much as I thought it was like kind of average, whatever, you can
should
really.
we is a different question.
Should we is different,
Can
but
we?
you could really do the whole thing straight. It's like the fact that the play is about something innocuous and dull and like about like that could stay the same.
Trigger word.
The trigger word could work. It could all work. He's he hypnotized
But would you
him.
still be able to not know about it until the week of?
Oh no, you would have seen it somewhere. You'd be like, "Hey, this is the play I wrote."
Maybe he's like not on social media or something.
Like that would make more sense if you tweak it to where he knows about it. And we've seen Larry do this in the past, where he's like, "I'm going to let him do it. I'm not going to get involved," and then he can't hold back, and he has to get involved.
Yeah. But in terms of like this, like the things in the episode, it could absolutely happen today. It's a pretty high PS Today score.
You could do all the same things,
No,
and like it would be
outdated. Anything
again, watching a disaster is always fun.
Yeah. I mean, I would want a more sensical thing about Balky's hypnosis or whatever, the trigger, how long it lasts. I would want that to make a little more sense. But in terms of like, can you make it today? There's nothing much would have to change.
Yeah, it wouldn't. I would be nice if it made a little bit more sense. You could put a little thought, make it a little bit more thoughtful. But whatever. It is what it is. That's it for this week. Next week, the cousins are going to get stressed about stuff, about
Very
tests,
stressed.
about stress,
A lot of stress.
stressing out. There's a lot of
Which
stress
is
apparently.
Dessert spelled backward.
Oh, I like dessert stress. What is it?
Dessert is a good
Stressed.
one. Stress is the
Stressed is
bad.
dessert spelled back.
Okay.
In the meantime, another great way to support the show, listener, is to visit our website and click on that Buy Me a Coffee button. It's a virtual tip jar, and it helps keep the show going. We love everyone's support and thank those who have supported in the past. But check it out. You could give a couple of coffees, and we'd be very appreciative.
We would. You can also drop us a line in many places. Come and visit us on our website, danceofjoypod.com. From there, you get to see where are all the places in the ether where you can stream this very podcast, my very voice that I'm speaking with right now. Go to all those places, hit like and subscribe, leave us a rating, a review, all those places. You can also send us a voice message from our website. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us what your trigger word is that sends you into a flying rage.
Bridge?
What is your trigger, your Hulk out word? You can also share those stories with us by email at danceofjoypod@gmail.com or on any of our social media accounts. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Come and say hi. We love to hear and connect with our listeners. But Imran, what is the most important thing our listeners should do?
Always cast your wife or girlfriend as your mother. It's hilarious. It's good
Do
fun.
it on purpose and make sure she enjoys it and
you
has
know-
fun with it.
Then you know how
And if
this
she
person
doesn't,
reacts to
divorce
things.
her.
Exactly. Then you know what's really going on. No, the most important thing is to share this show with your theater group. Next time you go see a Broadway play.
Next time you're at the Chicago Recreational Center.
Yes, post
Recreation
it on the
Center.
Chicago, the Recreation
Next time you're at your
Center.
local recreation
Yes.
center, put up a poster.
Tell a friend.
Put a sticker up. Tell a friend. Talk about Dance of Joy and Perfect Strangers, of course. We would be very appreciative. That is our show for today. Thank you so much for listening. Now we are so happy.
Now we are so happy we do the dance of joy. Hey, 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 hey.